Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's so wonderful to see all of you here and online. My name is Marjorie Wormser. I am your Sunday associate this morning. Welcome to the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, where we covenant together to weave the fabric of community from the strands of our separate lives. We are a radically inclusive, welcoming, social justice-oriented congregation, and whoever you are and wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We adhere to the principles of Unitarian Universalism, which you can find. There's a card in the slot of the chair directly in front of you. Feel free to read that over, take it with you if you like. Additional information is in the Great Hall at the welcome table, which you passed on your way into this room. This is a great time to silence any noise-making devices. Put your phones on silent, if you would. And we've got a very full morning, so for just 1 minute, I invite you to greet someone you didn't come with, but just 1 minute, one real minute, okay? Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for greeting one another so warmly, and a warm welcome to those of you who are joining us virtually this morning. By the way, I'm going to share a couple brief announcements, but I'd like to mention that what I do, being a worship arts associate, Sunday associate, is a really fun thing to do, and we could use some more people. We would benefit from having additional people who do this. It's not a heavy lift, and just in the spirit of Gahil Gibran, who said deep love and devotion can be found in the simple things like stirring the oatmeal. Okay? So you could talk to any one of us who you see up here on a Sunday, or to Reverend Joel. Thanks. We'd love to have you with us. So this morning's announcement, the annual congregational meeting is today at 12 noon, and the agenda, budget resolutions, and other documents for this meeting can be found on our website, muuf.org/abbreviated congregational meeting, CONGMEETINGS/. And then next Sunday, our annual picnic will take place following the service. Please join us for food, games, and fun. And the annual support drive is underway. Thank you to the 111 members and friends who have pledged so far. To learn more about the pledge drive, please visit our website, and you can use an online pledge form through Realm. And that's it for announcements. Other news and announcements can be found on our website, muuf.org, events. Thank you.
And now we have a special announcement from one of the graduates of our religious education programming.
Hi, I'm Jahan Chu, and I'm the son of Al and Minda Chu, two longtime supporters of the fellowship. I wanted to take a moment to let you know why I've been supporting this build campaign for the fellowship so enthusiastically, and encourage you to also support further. See, the fellowship's been in our family for pretty much as long as I've been around, and it runs so deep in our family as a culture. It's been such an important part of my upbringing and created a sense of community, and really helps to instill a lot of the values that I grew up with, including inclusion, mindfulness, service, peace, and diversity. And I'm forever kind of grateful for these influences. In addition, I think that the fellowship has created a place, a sense of place and home for my family, even when most of us have moved away and we're no longer nearby. And finally, I wanted to really honor my parents by continuing their mission and their commitment to support the fellowship for future generations. Now, I know many of you have already contributed in so many ways to the fellowship with your time, with your service, and also with your money. And for that, we're all very, very thankful. At the same time, this job's not done. And I like to think of this as really the final turn and the last push that we need to get to the finish line in this build campaign. I think that anchoring this campaign has allowed me to step up in ways that I didn't even know were possible for myself. And I hope and think that in this community and of our congregation that there are other hidden heroes who might also be willing to step up if they could just see themselves as possible of taking that extra step. I'm here to encourage you that you can do it, and you can go to that uncomfortable place and have a breakthrough in gift giving and creating a legacy to benefit the future generations of the fellowship. So I hope you'll join me and all of the other wonderful, amazing donors in getting this campaign across the finish line. On behalf of my late father, my mother, Minda, and my sisters, Priscilla and Shamsi, we thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Shari and I, with a very special announcement. So it is great to hear from Jahan about the Chu's family's commitment to this project. Think of the amazing generosity of this congregation to raise an incredible $8 million so far. $8 million. For this once-in-a-generation project. We've gotten here with gifts from a couple of $100 to $2 million and many generous gifts in between. Thank you. As we've explained in our information sessions, and now as we vote to fund and commence building the Fellowship Hall addition, we're doing so with a solid financial plan that includes further fundraising. We are confident that our members, friends, and alumni will continue with their support and your support. Now, can you think of one family that has been instrumental in our fundraising and project design? Think hard here. That family would be Helene and Paul Firm. Helene and Paul have supported this project with their time and talent over the last 10 years. But as the scope of the final project came into focus, they also shared that they wanted to give a significant additional contribution. Helene and Paul told us that they would like to increase their overall giving to $440,000. That is an amazingly generous gift. Just as with the Chu and Erhane Wilson families, the fellowship has a recognition policy for gifts of this magnitude. We have asked the Firm family to consider a naming opportunity. And happily, Paul and Helene have gratefully agreed and shared that they would like to name a classroom in the new addition in honor of their parents and family as the Morgenthaler Firm Owl Classroom. How about that? So what do you say we get a few words from this amazing couple?
Come back, Shari. We miss you. Wow, good morning. Thank you, Franklin. Thank you, Shari. Thank you, Joel, for helping us be here today. We started attending the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in 1997 when our children were just 1 and 4 years old. We were so warmly welcomed by you members who literally embraced us that day and our children, offered religious education classes, and nurtured our entire family with the rich offerings of this community. We attended lay and minister-led services, totally new, that offered eye-opening invitations to the world's spiritual teachings. Helene and I have really embraced the UU faith. Our children, Steve and Mike, were also nourished in so many ways by Ari, by Owl, our whole lives, and their friendships and mentorships with the adults here. They are on their life journeys now with UU awareness and openness, helping them explore the world.
Paul and I have grown through these connections and friendships with you all, including my dancing, Paul's singing, services, volunteering, and we also enjoy hands-on ministry such as the facilities planning, board work, and yes, even the capital campaign work to offer the next generation this strong home for the future. My parents, now passed away, enjoy joining us here for holidays and our kids' milestone celebrations, coming of age. And my mother, Phyllis Morgenthaler, was a lifetime admirer of Unitarian Universalism. She discovered it during college, and as a school nurse, she was a vocal supporter of the OWL principles, our whole lives curriculum here, and sex education in high schools. We all miss our parents deeply and try to keep their good works and spirit alive.
Truly, our memories of bringing our parents here are very happy ones. As the new building project came into focus, we did also think about times when our mom, in a wheelchair or walker, had to use the steep ramp, once only to find that Homer Hansen's paper cutting was out of reach on the second floor. Thus, everything about the new addition design that was being proposed really resonated with us on a deeply personal level, from accessible bathrooms to bringing everyone onto the main floor of the sanctuary. That is why we're so very pleased today that we're at this juncture to make transformational building changes to help us live into our future.
Jihan's video on inspired giving is powerful, and it's something that the capital campaign asks each of us to consider. Paul and I decided to really stretch our giving at this final phase of the project, and we're so excited and inspired to be a part of moving ahead and building the new addition.
We are honored to be asked to consider naming a classroom, and the Morgenthaler firm Owl Classroom will always remind us that the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship really does touch our whole lives. We will forever be grateful for the impact you have all had on our family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here you are, a people who gather and create a place and a presence. And we know the difference it makes can even be life-saving, certainly life-transforming. Remember, through this day especially, one in which you've invested a lot and have big decisions to make. Decisions are not a foregone conclusion. Because we are a community and one based in relationship in the democratic process. But let me reflect back to you as we begin our worship now. It's beyond notable how generous you are with each other, with your resources. I enjoy impressing my colleagues and telling them how generous you are. $8 million? Let me also reflect back to you that when I looked at you during the welcome moment, greeting one another, the smiles on your face, the energy in your bodies, the joy as you connected with one another. This is why we worship, to bring us to moments like this. Let us worship again and celebrate all that we have and the importance, above all, of our relationships with one another in this beloved community. Let's worship together and begin by lighting our chalice and saying our covenant. Love is the spirit of this covenant, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. I would invite you to sing now, and if you'd like to stand in body or in spirit, the words should be up here and available to folks online.
Sing us
Yeah, this is the time for all ages. And if there's children or anyone who feels young at heart who would like to come up and help me for the time for all ages this morning, I'd love for you to come up and help me out. Yeah, come on up. Thank you. All right, come on up. I'm glad you guys are here. Thank you. I'm wondering because I grew up with with a lot of these. I loved these when I was your age, and I still love them. Do you know what that is? Does that look familiar? Is that a map? A map, yeah. Paper map. Paper maps. Not exactly, not a GPS map. That is exactly it. Let me tell you something. When I was a kid, I got interested in maps because I was in my mom's car one day. She stopped by the gas station and filled up the car with gasoline. And the owner of the gas station said to me, "Hey, you want this?" And handed me, I thought it was like a little book or something. I didn't know what it was. It's a map. It's yours. They gave them away back in those days. That tells you how old I am. And I opened it up and I was like, what? Wow, this is really cool. And I lived in Ohio, and it was a map of Ohio. This isn't a map of New Jersey. I actually, ironically, I don't have one. I'm a little embarrassed. What's up with that? So a map of Vermont, which is a great place also. But you know, I have to tell you something. I started reading maps. I loved maps, and as I got older and got my own cars, loved having maps and learning where I was in the world and how I might get to different places. I bought a new car recently. And right, you were talking about the map, the one that's on your phone? Yeah. There's one thing about it. When you're on it and you make directions, like here's directions to my house, and it gives directions, and then it turns around like this, up and down, and I'm in my car and I'm trying to drive around. I'm so used to a map that has this thing on it called a compass rose, which tells you where north is. That's the compass rose right there. There's no compass rose on this, or if there's a compass rose, it flips around like that, and I feel like I'm spinning. It makes me nuts. I read once. I like the map a little bit because I can figure out, oh, there's a traffic jam up ahead. Maybe I can find a different way to go. Okay, I like that part. It's about the only part I like. Otherwise, I really like it. I like the old maps. I like the paper maps. And I think the biggest thing that convinced me not to use the map on here was the time I heard about the map. Somebody was driving across Australia, and the map sent them out into a desert, and they got lost and stuck and almost died there. Because the map program said, why not? It's the best way to go. No, it wasn't. So I actually don't trust it. I think I love a map that has a compass rose on it that reminds me of how to use the map and understand where I am in the world. And actually, I brought some maps for you just in case you don't have a paper map, so you can take one. There's Vermont, yeah. Kentucky, Tennessee, Delaware, yeah, that's a good map. Michigan, there we go. And if any of you is longing for a map, I'll have one here after the service. I'm going to talk a little more about maps and words here in a moment, but thanks for coming up for the time of all ages. Milestones, passages, gratitudes, these different journeys each of us has. we come together for that map that is beyond paper, but not beyond the love of community and the love of life. And these milestones, these passages, this ritual of sharing our gratitudes is a way of marking where we may be on that wordless, paperless map by which we try to build our lives as individuals and together. Let us remember the importance of marking these milestones and expressing our gratitude, because when we do it together, we will find our way. So this first milestone is a happy 80th birthday coming up on June 6th for Carolyn Schwartz. Happy birthday. And as a matter of fact, today is a birthday. Brooke Donaldson says, today is Candace Donaldson's 41st birthday. Please wish her a happy birthday. And as we have a light lunch, how perfect, because we can then enjoy birthday cake with them afterward. These flowers are in celebration and in her honor. Happy birthday. Shari Lowe shares that Sarah Bernadette Matsushima and her band have been accepted and will perform at a jazz festival in the Toronto Jazz Festival at the end of August. Woo! Congratulations. That's a gig. Athalia Lulaine would like to share with you, this is an important milestone in my experience. I would like to share, she writes that this past Friday, I had 10 years clean, no more heroin. It's been a long road with so many ups and downs, but so worth it. And happy Pride Month, she writes. As one who is grateful for his sobriety, thank you so much for sharing that, because it is so worth it. Marjorie Wormser asks that we send healing thoughts and prayers for her dear friend Kevin. Kevin's 23-year-old son Brian died exactly 1 year ago during the twilight between today and tomorrow. And gratitudes, a wonderful way to begin life, begin each day, and to mark the importance of worship. I am grateful for whoever it is who's responsible for replacing the basketball hoop net. This gratitude and joy from Bob Calafiore. Grateful for all the help from several group of men who helped me put up my dream greenhouse. In fact, Paul Firm said to me, what's that? I have pictures. You have pictures? All right, there we go. And apparently all the group of men were there because Paul was trying to call them all and couldn't get them. This is an anonymous gratitude for catbirds and wasps. Wasps sting. They must do something that's important that I don't understand yet. And this is a gratitude for Laurent Comez. Gratitude for his serving as president of the board, and especially for organizing today's annual meeting and a lot of work that went into it. Thank you. I invite you to sit together as a people now. And if you would like, if you are comfortable, join me in this practice of prayer or meditation or mindful contemplation. Every week we recreate this place. We bring ourselves together and we sing, we laugh, we cry, we wonder. And for a moment in a week, we rest our hearts, we calm our minds, give our souls a Sabbath quiet. Today, the practice feels maybe a little ironic. The worries of the week may seem to us here today easier than the anxiousness we feel for the decisions we have to make. Gentle now, my beloved people, gentle. Lay these worries, lay them gently into the dark earth through your feet, through your mind or imagination. Lay gently the worries for this place into this beautiful dark earth below us, below the carpeted floor. It will hold all of them easily. Let go of the tangle of feelings, the pull and push of past and future. The past is gone, the future is not yet here. Breathe and move no more than a Buddha at rest under a tree. Breathe again. Breathe again. And as you continue to breathe, note the moment in between each breath. A pause. A moment that is here and just as soon gone, but in that moment, a pause between the movements of life and time. And now in the silent moment we are about to share, let us still breathe. Remember, we are here, we are now with one another, and we recreate this place. We recreate this love. And yet, it is also always here. It's been here the whole time. Now silence. Now silence. Carry now this silence and the love that lives within it and the place we create and share. Carry it through this day so that it may bless this day and each day yet to come. So be it. Amen. Blessed be. This hymn, number 1052, you may have sung it before, but be gentle with yourselves. And if you're younger and you see lots of complicated words, it's because it's got a lot of complicated words. So, and yet it's a beautiful tune and beautiful poetry. So I'm going to invite you to sing. If you'd like to use the book, it's number 1052. The hymn is entitled "The Oneness of Everything." Our offering today will be split 50-50 with Nourish New Jersey. Nourish New Jersey creates solutions to the problems of hunger, homelessness, and poverty, offers food, housing, work readiness, medical, social, and educational services every day of the year, and does it in a warm, safe, and caring environment, and does it free of charge, no questions asked. And our help makes that possible. You can give in the baskets that are being passed around during the offertory music, or you can give in the links that are shown in the order of service, both in the paper and online. We take your offering. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashemayim ve'et haaretz. That's the first sentence in the Torah and in the Christian Bible. It's in its ancient original Hebrew there. It translates in so many interesting ways, I've found. In English, it's common to use the King James translation that was done in the, I think, the early 1600s. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. In the Old English, the sentence is translated in the past tense and uses all singular nouns. The traditional Russian translation has its own perspective. I can't say it in the Russian, but I understand that it uses no articles, which I understand is pretty normal for the Russian, but it's still in the past tense. Yet the Russian reflects the plurals in the original Hebrew, but then the Russian adds a special form of the word created, which means that creation only happened one time. And then there's the Mandarin Chinese translation. And I don't understand Chinese at all well, but start first, God build sky earth. Now, I studied a little Hebrew. I'm not a Bible scholar, but from what my brief studies of Hebrew and of the Bible, I think that the way this ancient Hebrew translate, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, the translation that makes sense to me is, and then began creating the gods, the heavens, and the earth. Yes, that's plural gods, by the way. And the one-letter prefix that begins the Hebrew indicates this is a continuation from an earlier story. I'm always looking for spiritual truth. I think most people are. But I'm not sure if I really trust language as the best way to find it. I've struggled with language a lot through my experience as a Unitarian Universalist. Years ago in a sermon, I was trying to explain to a congregation that I had found this article on the internet. The internet was still kind of a pretty new thing. It was that long ago. And there were all of these fascinating articles that I normally would never have seen unless I'd gone into like a university library. It was an older article about the language theories of a guy named Benjamin Lee Whorf. He'd written an article in 1940. It had been published by MIT. I thought, oh, that should be all right, yeah? And it had this profound influence on the scientific study of language. So I included my reference to Benjamin Lee Whorf in a sermon, and I didn't realize I had waded deep into a huge conflict in the world of language and linguistics. Whorf had studied, a member of the congregation came up and said, "You've waded in deep and you really don't know what you're talking about. You should never have quoted Benjamin Lee Whorf." I thought, oh my God, I made a mess of things. Oh dear. Now, Whorf studied American Indian languages. And he did, in fact, overstate the effect language has on us human. He argued American Indian languages imposed such a constraint on the way that the first peoples of America could think, that it gave them a picture of reality totally different than ours. So their speakers are simply not able to understand some of our most basic concepts, said Whorf, like the flow of time. Now, the fact is that native speakers of American Indian languages have no problem at all understanding the flow of time. So for a long time, I was embarrassed and never talked about the article or even anything having to do with words in a sermon. I just thought, I better not go there. But you know, I finally found words for words again. And I decided to wade back into the linguistic conflict. Part of the reason is that I find it so frustrating to try to explain Unitarian Universalism to people who practice other religions, mostly the folks who are our neighbors who don't practice Unitarian Universalism. Sometimes I feel like I explain it and it kind of bounces off their head. But where Benjamin Lee Whorf was wrong, and what makes me very happy as somebody who claims to be a humanist as well as a theist, that's a sermon for another time, but As a humanist, I'm delighted because the practice of reason, this process by which you and I talk about things and we can figure out, oh, the sky, it's up there, the ground is down there, the sky is blue, the beautiful trees and grass are that bright spring green, and we're inside as opposed to outside. Reason allows us to do this in any language. No language keeps us from talking about the basic things of life, at least, and perhaps, if we give it time, talking about anything. And yet, every language has a way of directing our attention. So, for example, in English, I can say, I spent yesterday with my neighbor. But if I want to say it in German, I'm forced by the language to tell you the gender of my neighbor. In German, my neighbor would be either a Nachbar or a Nachbarin, so it's either a he or she, and there's not a lot of choice otherwise. And the other thing about when I'm trying to explain Unitarian Universalism, it's years ago when I just started freely using what I consider to be Unitarian Universalist language, I would say God, she. And I did this once in a memorial service for a member of the congregation who really wanted me to reference God and make it very clear God was for her a feminine presence. And her neighbors were so angry with me, they could hardly stand it. And you know that first sentence I mentioned to you, Bereshit bara Elohim, in the beginning, the gods. Biblical scholars, I've gotten into some arguments with biblical scholars over that. They'll argue, well, conservative Christian scholars will say, well, that's the Trinity. That's why they did that. No, there was no Trinity when they wrote that 5,000 years ago. Are you kidding? I don't know what to do with some of those arguments. They don't make sense to me. I think the roots of ancient Judaism kind of clearly come out of a religion that was a religion that had a belief in many gods. So it made sense that they talked about the gods and eventually a spiritual journey to one God. Now, as I mentioned, my own beliefs about God or not God, I'm conflicted because I wake up in the morning, as some of you know, I wake up in the morning and the humanist in me says, are you still believing in that God thing? And the theist in me goes, yes, I do. And the humanist goes, I don't know what to do with that. But the thing I love about what I understand to be my spiritual language, the one I'm creating with you, co-creating with you, is that whatever we believe about the holy, it's obviously far grander than one gender or two genders. It's much beyond that. So the word faith, for example, it's an essential word for us Unitarian Universalists. And I always struggle with it because faith in English is a noun. And creedal religions insist everybody should have the same belief. You should have the same faith. And they use the two words almost with the same kind of meaning. But in their original meanings, they're very different words. And the way I experience the words, they're very different. As I mentioned, I have beliefs. There may be 110 of us in this room. I guarantee you there are at least 111 beliefs here this morning, because I'm working on stuff. Beliefs, for me, are nouns. But faith, I don't have faith. I am faithless, especially to say my neighbors who practice different religious paths or spiritual paths. Faith, though, for me is extremely important as a Unitarian Universalist. It's a thing I do. It's a verb. I don't have faith. It's what I do with you. And I can only do it with you. It's not something I can ever do alone. So what made me feel like I could talk about words again and how they interact with religion was I heard a poet, Bob Holman, who lives in New York. He loves words, and he's trying to save endangered languages as well as to help the world enjoy poetry. And some years ago he said, language, it's the way we think. It's who we are. It's more than communication. He says, if you lose the way your family speaks, you begin to lose who you are. And then you become only homogenized, a consumer of life, rather than a citizen who comes from a place and a people. So fortunately, the theory, the study of languages and the theories around them have gotten past the trauma of this Benjamin Lee Whorf, because he did make some really racist assumptions in his studies. But indeed, science itself, the practice of science, observing, testing, taking a hypothesis to a theory, and then having your work tested by peers, it shows the way we experience our existence is shaped, it's focused by the first language we speak. So this is the thing that makes me crazy about this car that I just got. I like it because it's an all-electric car, and it's such an improvement over gasoline cars. But the one thing about it has a map program in it, pick up off of my phone. And when that map spins around on the screen, it makes me crazy. And it makes me crazy not just because I want my map to stay at one orientation, preferably true north, with a little compass rose telling me that it's still on north. It won't do that. But here's the other thing about it. Leah Boroditsky is a professor. She studies language and thinking. And she gives this example of how language shapes our understanding of the world. She writes, I am standing next to a 5-year-old girl in Pormpuraaw, a small Aboriginal community on the western edge of Cape York in northern Australia. When I ask her to point north, she points precisely and without hesitation. Ooh, I shouldn't have done that. Can you all tell me where east is? Yes. Yeah, I pointed north. Oh, okay, that's pretty good. Professor Boroditsky says, the girl is right. Then later, she writes, back in a lecture hall at Stanford University, I make the same request of an audience of distinguished scholars, Nobel Prize winners, science medal winners, genius prizes. Some of them have come to this room to hear lectures for more than 40 years. I asked them to close their eyes and point north. Many refuse. They don't know the answer. And those who do take a long time to think about it. And then they aim in all kinds of different directions. Same thing happens at Harvard, Princeton, and in Moscow, London, Beijing. Same results. A 5-year-old in one culture can do with ease something that eminent scientists in other cultures struggle to do at all. I'm fascinated by the language of Australia's First Peoples. So, and here's one of the things about it that fascinates me and I think is so useful for us. In English or German, for example, if you want to give directions to your house to a friend, you would say, okay, after the traffic lights, take the first left, and then you'll see a White House in front of you, or a door is on the right of it. Now, in theory, you could give directions differently. You could say, after the traffic lights, drive north, and then on the second crossing, drive east. You'll see a White House directly to the east. Ours is the southern door. Most of us couldn't do that, could we? One of the things about loving maps as a kid was I could have done that once. I'm guilty. I use this thing too much. I can't do it anymore. The thing about this way, or the way that says left and right, front and back, it's an egocentric way of being in the world. It places It places us in a relationship to the world as though the world alters itself based on what we're doing and who we are. The second system uses an understanding of geographic directions and an understanding of the landscape around us. And it doesn't rotate when we turn or move. It doesn't turn on its own like it does on my crazy phone. Australia's first languages are in the context of the environment and the relationships of people. Community then becomes the leading understanding of what's at the center of a language. In an Australian language like Ugu Yimi Thir, for example, it doesn't have any of these self-oriented words or even understandings. A speaker of Ugu Yimi Thir knows where north, south, east, and west are just by being in the world. In fact, I saw a television show once where a speaker of Ugu Yimi Thir was watching the television, figured out where the shadows were, and had a sense of what time of day it was, and could say what direction the camera was pointed. So if a speaker of Ugu Yimi Thir wants you to move over on the car seat to make room so they can drive, they'll say to you, move a bit to the east. To tell you exactly where they left something in your house, they'll say, I left it on the southern edge of the western table. Oh, look out, there's a big ant that bites. It's just north of your foot. In fact, speakers of these languages can locate space in the landscape so well that you can blindfold them, spin them around, and they still know where north, south, east, and west are. And I was so jazzed when I read that some years ago. It was kind of a relief because I've often longed for a language that centered my people rather than me. I like myself, but who am I without you? Not who I want to be. No one's fluent in our language yet. I wish I was, but only a gathered people can do what we're doing, create a language, shift a language that brings more people together and centers the possibility of a diversity with comfort. One soul speaking alone isn't a conversation, isn't a creation of a language. And one congregation alone isn't enough to create it, but congregations together, a people together, we can. It's what we do as Unitarian Universalists. We're open to the ebb and flow of life, even as it flows through our own beings. And we find ways to talk about it that are meaningful and respectful and reasoned. You've made deep commitments to one another over the years, and it's so beautiful to watch you greet each other on a Sunday morning. I hope that the poetry of all our souls continues to speak us into hope and to action. That whatever hope and faith we have is something that lives from us and between us. Let our faith speak itself among us. Let our hope reunite the inner language of our souls with the greatest ideas and words of justice and peace. It matters. We are here. Let the world hear us speak about it. Hymn number 20, if you like the Gray Book, and much thanks to Alex who got the words together this morning. You haven't sung this song in a while, but it's not hard to sing. So I invite you to sing with me, Be Thou My Vision. I invite you to stand in spirit or in body, as you'd like. Please be seated. There's a compass rose on this map. It was a congregation, now decades ago, that became my compass rose. And for the Chu family, as Jihan Chu said, you have been a compass rose to that family. What you do matters, often more than you'll ever know. Don't forget your compass rose, especially that compass rose, the true north, that North Star, the relationships between you. These matter more than perhaps anything we have, riches, even buildings. Go in peace and be in peace. Remember to breathe, and remember how holy and sacred it is that you are here. Amen.
Dylan's long